Hello again. Whenever we look at the figures for what is now called net migration to Britain, which is of course the modern euphemism for immigration, we see at once the huge part of it, hundreds of thousands, is made up of students coming to this country to study. Many of them arrive and never leave, a situation which has been tacitly accepted by successive governments. The fiction is that these are people who came to Britain to study medicine or law and then remain to take up useful roles in our society. Often this justification for replacing our population is explicitly tied in with the supposedly ageing nature of that population. After all, it is argued, once all the baby boomers die off, we'll still need doctors, nurses, teachers and judges, and we have to get them from somewhere. This is, of course, a complete falsehood, as I've explained before. The recent court case out of the little girl who was murdered show us how this process works in practice and what the implications actually are for our country. I will not harrow viewers with an account of the sufferings of the child. It's the background of the two men who stood trial which is interesting. The father, Irfan Sharif, came here as a student from Pakistan in 2003. He did business studies at a former polytechnic in London. His brother, Faisal Malik, also came to this country on a student visa and is doing business studies at Portsmouth University. In the description to this video, I give a link to the recordings of the initial interviews with those two men. Irfan Sharif is now working as a taxi driver and has lived in this country for 23 years. His English is so poor, though, that he needed a Punjabi interpreter during the interview. So did his brother. Just try and imagine how a man could study at university, live in the country for over 20 years, work as a taxi driver, and then still need an interpreter. The truth is, many of those who come to this country on student visas cannot speak or understand English. Their ability to do so has been assessed online, which is easy to cheat, or failing that, they send a cousin along to attend a real test. Universities love these people because they can charge them as much as they like, as opposed to British students whose fees are capped. This is all that's keeping many of the newer universities afloat financially. Most people at them are overseas and are doing non-subjects such as business studies. Many of them can't speak English. They use the student visa as a route to permanently settling here. I dare say that most viewers will have noticed that almost every taxi driver now is foreign. Ask, and you will soon find that most of them came here as students and never quite got round to leaving again. It's the same with Amazon delivery people as well, of course. Only a tiny number of those who came to do business studies here actually ended up in business, well, legitimate business, that is. Irfan Sharif is a perfect example of those men whom this country apparently needs so desperately to replace our ageing population. There's another interesting point about this case which also sheds light on modern Britain, and that is the fact that every single agency which came into contact with that family before the child's death, that is to say the police, schools, social services, NHS and so on, knew perfectly well that Irfan Sharif was beating up on his daughter. They did nothing about it because he's a Pakistani Muslim. Investigating Pakistani Muslims for anything at all, especially the abuse or ill treatment of children, is not something which the authorities wish to do in this day and age, and so he was left simply to get on with it.